The lawyer's office smelled of old leather and expensive cologne. I sat beside my daughter, Emma, watching her perfectly manicured nails drum against the mahogany table. At 28, she'd become someone I barely recognized. Designer clothes, that cold corporate smile, eyes that calculated rather than sparkled. As the sole heir to Margaret Hawthorne's estate, the lawyer droned, adjusting his glasses, Emma Hawthorne inherits the sum of $47 million, the Hawthorne mansion, and all associated properties. Emma's breath caught. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "What about Mom?" she asked, not looking at me. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Your mother, Mrs. Sarah Hawthorne, was not mentioned in your grandmother's will." I'd expected this. Margaret had never forgiven me for marrying her son, and even less for his death. But seeing Emma's face light up with dollar signs, while deliberately ignoring my presence, that I hadn't prepared for. "When can I access the funds?" Emma asked. "Immediately. However, there is one clause. Your grandmother stipulated that you must reside at the Hawthorne mansion for 1 full year to maintain ownership. If you abandon the property, it will be donated to charity." Emma waved her hand dismissively. "Not a problem. Mom, I'll need you to pack your things." The words hit like ice water. "What?" "The house is mine now. I'm sure you understand. I'll be making changes, hosting events. I need my space." Her voice was pleasant, businesslike, as if she were firing an employee rather than evicting her mother. "Emma, that's my home, our home. Where will I go?" She finally looked at me, and I saw nothing behind those eyes. Nothing at all. "You'll figure it out. You always do." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "I'll give you a week." 5 days later, I stood in the driveway with 2 suitcases containing my entire life. Emma watched from the window, phone pressed to her ear, laughing about something. She didn't wave goodbye. My best friend Rachel picked me up, fury radiating from every pore. "I cannot believe she's doing this to you, after everything you sacrificed." I'd worked 3 jobs to put Emma through college after my husband died, sold my mother's jewelry to cover her apartment in New York, delayed my own medical treatments to pay for her MBA. None of it mattered now. "Money changes people," I whispered, watching the mansion disappear in the side mirror. What I didn't tell Rachel was the real reason for my tears. 3 weeks ago, my doctor had delivered news that changed everything, but Emma had been too busy planning her inheritance strategy to notice her mother was dying. Rachel's spare room was tiny but warm. Unlike the mansion where Emma had replaced all my photos with modern art, declared my cooking too pedestrian for her new lifestyle, and started referring to me as Sarah instead of Mom. "You can stay as long as you need," Rachel insisted, bringing me tea. My phone rang. Emma's name flashed on screen. "Mom, I need you to sign some papers. Transfer of utilities, that sort of thing." Not a single question about where I was staying. No apology, just business. "I'll come by tomorrow," I said quietly. "Actually, could you just mail them? I'm having people over, and, well, it would be awkward." I hung up without responding. Within 48 hours of inheriting, Emma fired the staff who'd worked for the family for decades. Mrs. Chen, who'd been our housekeeper since Emma was born, called me in tears. "She said we reminded her of the old regime," Mrs. Chen sobbed. "She gave us each a check and told us not to return." Emma's social media exploded with photos, champagne brunches, designer shopping sprees, a new Tesla. Her captions dripped with phrases like "new chapter" and "living my truth" and "cutting out toxic energy." I was the toxic energy, apparently. Rachel found me crying over those posts. "Block her. She doesn't deserve access to you." But I couldn't. She was still my daughter, somewhere under all that cruelty. My phone buzzed. Emma again. "Stop telling people I kicked you out. It's embarrassing. You're making me look bad." I typed and deleted responses for 10 minutes before settling on, "I only told Mrs. Chan where I was staying." "Well, stop, and I need you to return the credit card. It's technically from grandmother's estate." The card had a $200 limit. I'd used it for groceries. Emma's 30th birthday party was legendary, or so I heard. 300 guests, ice sculptures, a performance by a famous DJ. She didn't invite me. I saw the pictures, though. Everyone did. Emma in a gown that cost more than my yearly salary, surrounded by people who'd never met her before the inheritance. One photo caption caught my attention. Celebrating with my real family, the ones who've always supported my success. Rachel had to physically restrain me from commenting. "Let karma handle this," she said. "People like Emma always fall." I didn't want Emma to fall. I wanted my daughter back. The girl who used to make me breakfast in bed on Mother's Day using burnt toast and too much jam, who cried in my arms after her first heartbreak, who'd once told me I was her hero. But that girl was gone, drowned in $47 million. 72 hours after the party, my phone rang at 3 a.m. Emma's voice was barely recognizable. "Mom, Mom, I need help." I sat up, heart racing. "What's wrong? Are you hurt?" Sobbing now, desperate. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Mom, please, I need you." Every maternal instinct overrode my hurt. "Where are you?" "Home. The mansion. But Mom, it's gone. Everything's gone." "What do you mean gone?" "The money. All of it. And the house. Mom, I'm going to lose the house." I was already getting dressed. "I'm coming. Stay there." Rachel grabbed my arm. "Sarah, this could be a trap. Another manipulation." "She's my daughter," I said simply, "and she's in trouble."
The mansion looked the same from outside, but Emma's face told a different story. She stood in the doorway, makeup streaked, designer dress wrinkled, looking more like the daughter I remembered than the stranger she'd become. She collapsed into my arms the moment I reached her. "I'm so sorry," she gasped between sobs. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I was horrible to you, unforgivable. And now—" "Tell me what happened," I said, guiding her inside. The interior was chaos, furniture overturned, papers everywhere, Emma's laptop open to a screen showing her bank accounts. All of them showed the same thing, $0. "His name was Marcus," she began.
Marcus had appeared at Emma's party, charming and sophisticated, a financial advisor to the wealthy, he'd claimed. He'd complimented her intelligence, her business acumen, told her she was wasting her inheritance with simple savings accounts. "He said he could triple my money in 6 months," Emma whispered. "Showed me charts, testimonials, everything. Other clients who'd made fortunes." "And you gave him access to your accounts?" She nodded miserably. "All of them. He said we were partners. He said—" She broke down again. "He said he loved me." The classic con. Isolate the mark, gain their trust, make them believe they're special, then vanish with everything. "When did you last hear from him?" "Yesterday. He said there was a problem with one of the investments, that I needed to wire another $2 million to fix it, but I didn't have it. And when I called him," her voice cracked, "his number's disconnected. His office is empty. Mom, he's gone. $47 million. Gone."
Over the next hour, the truth unspooled like a nightmare. Marcus hadn't just taken the inheritance. He'd convinced Emma to take out loans against the mansion, to invest in fake companies, to wire money to offshore accounts. "The bank called this morning," Emma said. "I'm 3 months behind on the property taxes because I thought Marcus was handling it. And the loans, Mom, if I can't pay them back within 30 days, they'll foreclose." "How much do you owe?" $8 million. I felt dizzy. $8 million? The loans, the taxes, the contractors I hired to renovate, I thought the investment returns would cover everything. Marcus said— She covered her face. "I'm so stupid, so incredibly stupid." "Have you called the police?" "Yes, they're investigating, but they said cases like this rarely recover the money. Marcus covered his tracks too well." She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "Mom, I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose grandmother's house. A house she'd kicked me out of 3 weeks ago." Every reasonable bone in my body screamed to walk away, to let Emma face the consequences of her cruelty. She'd earned this disaster through her own greed and arrogance. But I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw the terrified 28-year-old who'd made catastrophic mistakes, not the cold stranger who'd evicted me. "There might be a way," I heard myself say. Emma's head snapped up. "What? How?" It's a long shot, but your grandmother, she didn't just leave money and property. I discovered it years ago while caring for Margaret during her final illness, a conversation she'd had with her lawyer when she thought I wasn't listening. There's a trust, I explained to Emma, a separate one established decades ago. Your grandmother never touched it. She was too proud. She considered it her catastrophe fund. How much? 10 million, maybe more by now with interest. Emma's eyes widened. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have spent it the same way you spent everything else. But more importantly, there's a condition. The trust can only be accessed under specific circumstances, genuine financial hardship, and only if approved by the trustee. Who's the trustee? I met her eyes. I am.
The words hung in the air like a verdict. You? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Grandmother made you the trustee? She did it without telling me. The lawyer only informed me after the funeral. Margaret wanted to ensure that if you ever truly needed help, someone who loved you, not just the money, would be there to decide. Emma's face crumpled. And I threw you out. I called you toxic. She slid from the chair to her knees on the marble floor. Mom, I don't deserve your help. I don't deserve anything. This was the moment I'd never imagined. My daughter, the one who'd looked at me with such contempt, literally on her knees, broken by her own choices. Please, she sobbed. I know I can't undo what I did, but please, help me. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Before I decide, I said quietly, I need to tell you something. Emma looked up, confused. 3 weeks before your grandmother's will reading, I went to the doctor. Her expression shifted to concern. Mom? Stage 3 cancer. Aggressive. The prognosis isn't good. I watched her face drain of color. I didn't tell you because you were so focused on the inheritance, and then, after you kicked me out, I decided you didn't need the burden. No, Emma was shaking her head. No, Mom, why didn't you? Because you didn't ask. Not once in those 3 weeks did you ask how I was. You were too busy counting money that wasn't even yours yet. She was crying so hard now she could barely breathe. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll help you, I said, but not the way you think. Emma wiped her eyes, waiting. The trust can save the house and pay off the loans, but I won't just hand you the money. We're going to do this right. I pulled out a document I prepared with the trust lawyer. These are the terms. Emma read through tears. Immediate repayment of all debts. Emma must attend financial counseling for 1 year. She must work a full-time job, salary donated to charity. She must volunteer 20 hours per week at a women's shelter. She must live on a budget of $2,000 per month. Any violation means the remaining trust funds go to charity. The mansion becomes a transitional housing facility for families in need. I accept, Emma said immediately. All of it, whatever it takes. There's one more thing, I added. I'm moving back in. The transformation wasn't instant. Emma had follow-through on every promise, but the first few weeks were hard. Watching her daughter work as a barista while living in 3 rooms of a mansion that now housed 6 families was surreal. But slowly, something shifted. Emma met Maria, a single mother staying in the East Wing, and started helping her daughter with homework. She organized a fundraiser at the shelter that raised $50,000. She called me every night, not about money or problems, but just to talk. Mrs. Chen came by today, Emma told me one evening. I apologized, really apologized, and I asked if she'd consider coming back, not as an employee, but as a friend. What did she say? She hugged me and cried. Then she said she'd think about it. Progress. 4 months in, the police called. They'd caught Marcus in Miami, trying to con another wealthy heir. He'd been arrested with $12 million in various accounts. We can recover about $8 million for you, the detective said. The rest was spent or hidden too well. Emma surprised me. Can we donate it to the shelter instead? They need it more than I do. Later, I asked her why. Because that money cost me everything that mattered, she said simply. My relationship with you, my integrity, nearly my entire life. I don't want it back. My cancer treatments were brutal. Emma was there for every appointment, holding my hair when I was sick,
reading to me when I couldn't sleep, researching every possible option. "I can't lose you," she'd whisper, "not when I just got you back." The trust paid for experimental treatments. Ironic that Margaret's money, which had nearly destroyed us, might save my life. One night, Emma climbed into bed beside me like she used to as a child. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I figured out why I became that person. That awful, cold person." I waited. "When Gad died, you were so strong. You handled everything, sacrificed everything, never complained. And I thought that's what success looked like, being untouchable, needing no one, being strong enough to stand alone." She wiped tears. "But I was wrong. Real strength is letting people in, asking for help, being vulnerable. You weren't strong because you were alone, Mom. You were strong because you loved."
8 months into Emma's rehabilitation, Mrs. Chen approached me with an envelope. "From your daughter," she said. "She asked me to give this to you today." Inside was a letter and a photograph. The photo showed the mansion's front garden, transformed into a community space where neighborhood children played. The letter read, "Dear Mom, today marks the day you gave me my first real gift. Not money, not things, but consequences and accountability. You saved me from myself. I've set up a scholarship fund in Dad's name for children who've lost parents. It's funded by my salary from the coffee shop and donations I've raised. We gave out our first scholarship today. I also spoke with the trust lawyer. If you approve, I want to sign the mansion over completely to the foundation we've created. I don't need to own it to make a difference. I'm sorry it took losing everything to find what mattered, but I'm grateful every day that you loved me enough to let me fall, and then helped me learn to stand. Love always, your daughter, who finally understands what that word means." I approved the transfer that afternoon. 2 years later, I stood in that same garden, watching Emma speak at the shelter's anniversary celebration. My cancer was in remission, not gone, but manageable. Emma stood beside her new boyfriend, a teacher she'd met while volunteering, who looked at her the way her father once looked at me. The mansion housed 12 families now. Emma worked as the program director, earning enough to live simply but meaningfully. She'd paid back every cent she'd spent from the trust, insisting it go to help others. "I can't believe she's the same person," Rachel whispered beside me. "She's not," I replied. "She's better." Emma saw me and waved, that genuine smile I'd missed lighting up her face. She excused herself and walked over, taking my hand. "Thank you," she said, as she did nearly every day now. "For what?" "For knowing that the worst thing you could do was let me get away with it. For loving me enough to let me lose everything so I could find what mattered." She squeezed my hand. "Most parents would have either enabled me or abandoned me. You did neither. You saved me." I looked around at the families, the gardens, the children playing where cold marble halls once stood. At my daughter, who'd learned that wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. "You saved yourself," I told her. "I just showed you where to look." Marcus was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The remaining families who'd been conned never recovered their money. Emma testified at his trial, helping secure the conviction. Sometimes I think about those 72 hours, from Emma's triumph at the will reading to her knees on the marble floor. How quickly everything can change. How money reveals character, rather than creating it. But mostly I think about the phone call at 3 a.m., how my daughter's voice, stripped of arrogance and pretense, called out for her mother, and how I answered. Because that's what love does. It doesn't keep score, it doesn't gloat, it shows up at 3 a.m. when it's needed most. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the person you love learns the same lesson. Emma visits every Sunday now. We cook together in the mansion's industrial kitchen, preparing meals for the residents. She tells me about her day, her hopes, her dreams, dreams that have nothing to do with money,
and everything to do with meaning. Last Sunday, she paused while chopping vegetables and said, "Mom, I've been thinking. When you're gone—" Her voice caught.
"It's okay," I said gently. "We can talk about it. When you're gone, I want to write a book about what happened. Not for money, but so other people might learn what I learned, that you can inherit millions and lose everything that matters, or lose millions and gain everything." I hugged my daughter, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling her heartbeat against mine. "That's the inheritance that matters," I whispered. "Not money, not property, but wisdom, love, purpose." "I know that now," she said. "I finally know."